The Blade's Awakening. The package arrived on Commander Elias Vega's 40th birthday, forwarded from his grandmother's estate. Small and wrapped in faded blue cloth secured with ancient twine, it felt unusually heavy for its size. A handwritten note accompanied it. To be opened when the stars speak your name. Elias had smiled at his grandmother's flair for the dramatic. The old woman had always spoken in riddles, especially about her expeditions beyond the Orion Arm before the Galactic Accord. Now, in his quarters aboard the frontier colony Helios 7, surrounded by the stark utilitarian furnishings of military service, he carefully unwrapped the package. Inside lay what appeared to be a sword of unusual design. The blade gleamed with a blue-white luminescence, seemingly made of crystal rather than metal. The hilt fit his palm perfectly, as if crafted specifically for his hand. Another heirloom to catalog. Dr. Sonia Karim paused at his open doorway, data tablet in hand. Her dark eyes, sharp with intelligence, studied the blade with professional interest. Grandmother's final gift, Elias replied, turning the blade carefully in the artificial light. Something about it felt strangely familiar, though he was certain he'd never seen it before. Mind if I scan it? Might be archaeologically significant. As the colony's leading xenorchaeologist, Sonia's curiosity was both professional and insatiable. 2 hours later, the results only deepened the mystery. According to every instrument in the colony's advanced laboratory, the blade was composed of crystalline structures unlike any documented material. It remained cool to the touch despite the heat lamps, weighed twice what it should, and strangely produced faint harmonic tones at frequencies just below human hearing when struck. Your grandmother's mysterious artifact is scientifically impossible, Sonia concluded, dark curls falling across her face as she leaned over the scanner. The molecular structure keeps shifting, almost like it's alive. That night, alone in his quarters, Elias noticed something the lab had missed. Microscopic symbols along the edge, symbols that seemed to change when he wasn't looking directly at them. When he ran his finger along them, the blade warmed slightly, and for a moment, he could have sworn he heard distant voices. Over the next few weeks, Elias became increasingly fascinated with the blade. His colleagues teased him about his fancy letter opener, but he noticed it responded differently to his touch than to others. Sometimes when working late, he would catch glimpses of light dancing along its edge, gone when he looked directly. One evening, Sonia invited him to the archaeology lab. "There's something you need to see," she said, her voice tight with excitement or fear. He couldn't tell which. In the lab, a holographic display showed the excavation site on the colony's southern continent. "We found something," she said, activating a secondary display. "Ancient ruins, at least 30,000 years old. And there's this." The image shifted to a wall carving, a perfect match for the symbols on his blade. The civilization called themselves the Arctians, Sonia explained. Advanced beyond anything we've encountered. And they were at war with something they called the Void Harbingers. As if responding to the name, the blade at Elias's hip hummed softly. "There's more," Sonia continued. "The long-range scanners detected something entering the system yesterday. Governor Kim classified the information, but I have clearance." She lowered her voice. "It's not one of ours, Elias. And it's big." 3 days later, the alarm klaxons wailed across the colony. Unknown vessels had appeared in orbit, deploying smaller craft toward the surface. Elias rushed to the command center, finding chaos as communications failed across the colony grid. "They've hit the main transmission array," Security Chief Rise reported. "Defensive systems are offline." Through the view screen, Elias watched as dark, angular ships descended through the atmosphere. The blade at his hip grew warm, then hot against his leg. "Evacuate to the emergency shelters," he ordered. "I'm going to the archaeological site." "Why there?" Governor Kim demanded. "Because that's where they're heading," Elias replied, somehow certain. He found Sonia already at the site, frantically downloading data as the ground trembled with nearby impacts. "They're coming for something here," she said without looking up. The Arkshan records mentioned a key, a weapon against the Harbingers. The wall behind her exploded inward. Elias tackled Sonia to the ground as debris showered around them. Through the dust, a figure emerged, humanoid but wrong, its proportions slightly off, skin like oil on water, eyes empty voids that pulled at the mind. Without thinking, Elias drew the blade. It blazed to life in his hand, blue-white light cutting through the dust and shadows. The creature recoiled, a sound like tearing metal emerging from what might have been a mouth. "Run," Elias shouted to Sonia, placing himself between her and the creature. But she didn't run. Instead, she moved to his side, her hand closing over his on the hilt of the blade. The moment their skin touched on the weapon, the world changed. Energy cascaded from the blade in expanding rings. Elias felt Sonia's consciousness brush against his, her analytical mind, her courage, her fear, all suddenly as familiar as his own thoughts. Together, they raised the blade. The creature lunged, its form distorting as it moved. The blade met it with a flash of light that briefly outshone the sun. When their vision cleared, nothing remained but a scorch mark on the ancient stone floor. "What just happened?" Sonia whispered, her hand still on his, the blade still glowing between them. Before Elias could answer, the ruins around them hummed to life. Dormant systems awakened, holographic displays shimmering into existence, showing star maps and what appeared to be battle plans. A voice spoke, not in sound but directly in their minds, in a language neither knew but both suddenly understood. "The bonded guardians have awakened the Axiom blade. The protocol begins." Elias and Sonia exchanged glances, 1,000 questions passing between them without words. Something fundamental had changed between them. A connection forged through the blade, their minds brushing against each other like whispered conversations from an adjacent room. "I can feel you," Sonia said softly. "In my head." "I know," Elias replied. "I feel you too." Through the ruined wall, they could see more dark ships descending through the colony's atmosphere. The blade pulsed between them, responding to their shared fear and determination. "The records," Sonia said suddenly. They spoke of blade-bonded pairs, Arkshan warriors connected through the weapons they wielded. They were the only ones who could stand against the Harbingers. "And now that's us," Elias said, understanding dawning. "But how do we fight an invasion?" The answer came not in words, but in knowledge suddenly flowering in their joined minds. Battle strategies, techniques, the blade's capabilities unlocked by their connection. The Arkshans had left more than ruins. They had left a legacy waiting for worthy successors. "The colony has 3 hours before they overrun our defenses," Elias said, information from the command center somehow flowing to him through their connection. "Then we have 3 hours to learn how to be Arkshan warriors," Sonia replied, her mind already racing through the ancient knowledge now accessible to them both. As night fell across Helios 7, they studied the holographic displays, their minds working in tandem, the blade between them glowing steadily brighter as their connection deepened. Outside, the first skirmishes began as the colony's remaining defenses engaged the vanguard of the Void Harbingers. The battle for humanity's farthest outpost had begun, with only a soldier, a scientist, and an ancient blade standing between civilization and the darkness between stars. The bonded guardians. Dawn broke over Helios 7 with the acrid smell of burning plastics and the distant thunder of explosions. Throughout the night, Elias and Sonia had moved through the ancient knowledge gifted to them, their minds increasingly working as one, memories and skills flowing between them through the bond of the Axiom blade. "The western perimeter is falling," Elias said, knowledge flowing to him through their connection to the colony systems. Sonia nodded, her consciousness brushing against his with determination tinged with fear. "The primary invasion force is still holding position in orbit. These are just scouts." Outside the ruins, they could see the colony burning. Civilians huddled in emergency shelters as security forces fought a losing battle against creatures that seemed to bend reality around them. The Void Harbingers didn't just kill, They consumed consciousness itself, leaving empty husks behind. "We need to reach the command center," Elias said, strapping the blade to his back. The weapon had changed overnight, conforming to their needs, its crystal structure now threaded with veins of gold that pulsed in time with their heartbeats. "Not yet," Sonia replied, moving toward a sealed chamber they had discovered in the night. The Arctians left more than knowledge. They left armor. The chamber opened at their approach, ancient mechanisms recognizing the blade's energy signature. Inside stood two exoskeletal suits, crystalline panels interlocked with flowing metal, designed to amplify the Axiom blade's power through its bearers. "The last stand of the Arctian Guardians," Sonia whispered, remembering fragments of history that had flowed into her mind. Before they fell, they sealed away their technology, hoping worthy successors would arise. "And now that's us," Elias replied, the weight of responsibility settling over him. The armor responded to their touch, flowing around them like liquid metal before hardening into protective shells. Through the crystalline visor, Elias could see Sonia transformed. The xenoarchaeologist, now a warrior of legend, her movements precise and confident as the armor's systems interfaced with her nervous system. "How do we look?" she asked, her voice carrying a hint of wonder at their transformation. "Like something out of ancient myth," he replied with a smile that carried through their bond. They moved through the colony with preternatural speed, the armor enhancing their physical capabilities, while the blade's energy signature repelled the smaller harbingers. Civilians stared in awe at the two armored figures leaping across buildings and cutting through enemy formations with flashes of blue-white light. At the command center, they found Governor Kim and the remaining leadership huddled around emergency systems. "Commander Vega," Security Chief Rice asked incredulously as they entered, the armor retracting from their faces. "We found a way to fight them," Elias explained quickly. "The ruins contain technology left by the Arctians, the civilization that fought these creatures millennia ago." "And defeated them," Sonia added, "until now." Through the command center's view screens, they watched as the main Harbinger vessel began its descent, a massive structure of impossible geometries that hurt the eyes to look upon directly. "They're coming for the blade," Sonia said, the knowledge clear in her mind. "It's one of the few weapons that can truly harm them." "Then we need to take the fight to them," Elias replied, their strategy forming simultaneously in both their minds. Governor Kim studied them, noting how they moved in perfect synchrony, finishing each other's thoughts. "What happened to you two?" "We've been bonded through the blade," Sonia explained. "It's how the Arctian warriors fought. In pairs, minds linked, strength shared. The colony's defenses can't stop that ship," Rise interjected, pointing to the descending behemoth. "They don't need to," Elias replied. "Just keep the ground forces occupied. We'll handle the main vessel." They left before further objections could be raised, the armor sealing around them once more as they raced toward the landing zone. A massive clearing where the Harbinger vessel was descending, reality warping around its hull. "The blade is the key," Sonia's thought came clear through their bond. When joined, at full resonance, it can tear through their dimensional shields. "Full resonance," Elias echoed. The Arctian records mentioned a final bonding ritual, a permanent joining of the Guardians. Sonia's mind touched his with a mix of determination and something deeper, warmer. A marriage of minds. The ultimate connection. "Are you sure?" Elias asked as they raced across the colony's outskirts, Harbinger scouts falling before the blade's light. Her response came not in words but in emotions, trust, courage, and a growing affection that matched his own unspoken feelings. In the weeks they had known each other, respect had grown to friendship and now, accelerated by their mental bond, to something more. The massive ship hovered just above the ground, pulsing with dark energy that withered plant life and cracked the earth beneath. From its core emerged a figure, larger than the others, its form constantly shifting between humanoid and something utterly alien, eyes like windows into the void between galaxies. "The Harbinger Prime," they whispered together, ancient knowledge identifying their foe. Around them, the colony's forces engaged the lesser harbingers, buying them time with blood and courage. The Prime regarded them with eyes that consumed light. The blade returns. It spoke, its voice vibrating through reality itself. The last DEFIANCE of a dead race. Not just theirs, Elias replied, drawing the axiom blade. Ours too. They moved as one, the armor enhancing their speed as they circled the massive entity. The blade left trails of light in the air as they struck from multiple angles, their minds perfectly synchronized, each anticipating the other's movements. But the Prime was ancient and powerful. A gesture sent Elias flying backward, armor cracking under the impact. Another caught Sonia in a field of distorted gravity, her armor straining against forces that threatened to crush it. The ritual, Sonia gasped through their bond, her physical voice silenced by the pressure. It's our only chance. Elias fought his way back to his feet, the blade pulling him toward her like a lodestone to true north. Between them, the Prime watched with cruel curiosity. Bonded, but incomplete, it observed. Hail guardians. With supreme effort, Elias closed the distance, reaching for Sonia's outstretched hand. Their fingertips touched, then palms, fingers interlacing around the blade's hilt. The ritual words came to them both simultaneously, ancient Arctian phrases that resonated with the blade's crystalline structure. As they spoke in perfect unison, the blade's light intensified, pushing back the Prime's gravitational assault. By blade and bond, two minds as one, they intoned in the ancient language. Two hearts, one purpose, until stars burned cold. With each phrase, the connection between them deepened, memories flowing freely, the barriers between minds dissolving. Elias felt Sonia's childhood fears, her academic triumphs, her quiet loneliness. She experienced his military discipline, his buried grief for his grandmother, his growing feelings for her. Two souls forged in battle's fire. They continued, the blade now pulsing with energy that cracked the ground beneath them. Guardians bound beyond death's reach. The Prime sensed the danger too late. It launched a desperate assault, reality warping around them as it tried to sever their connection. But the ritual was nearly complete, their minds now so intertwined that separation seemed impossible, unthinkable. What is joined by the axiom, let no force sunder. They finished together, the blade transforming in their hands, expanding into a spear of pure light that pierced the dimensional veil. They thrust forward as one, the spear of light penetrating the Prime's shifting form. For a moment, everything stopped, sound, motion, even time itself seeming to hold its breath. Then the Prime imploded, collapsing inward like a dying star, pulling its vessel and lesser minions with it into a singularity that vanished with a thunderclap of displaced air. Across the colony, the remaining harbingers fell lifeless, their connection to the Prime severed. In the sudden silence, Elias and Sonia stood motionless. The blade returned to its original form, but now permanently bonded to both of them, impossible to drop or lose. More significantly, they remained connected, their minds irreversibly joined, thoughts and emotions flowing freely between them. Did we just get married? Elias asked aloud, breaking the silence. Sonia laughed, the sound bright against the backdrop of the smoldering battlefield. By ancient Arctian standards, yes. The ritual is a permanent bonding of compatible minds, designed to create the perfect warrior pair. And by human standards, he asked, suddenly aware of how deeply he could feel her emotions, her exhilaration, her exhaustion, and beneath it all, her growing love for him mirroring his own. Let's say we're engaged, she replied with a smile he felt rather than saw. I think we've earned the right to a proper ceremony after saving humanity's farthest colony. As they made their way back toward the command center, the blade humming contentedly between them, they became aware of another presence in their joined minds. Ancient yet familiar, watching with approval. The Arctians aren't completely gone. Sonia realized. They left echoes of themselves in the blade, waiting for worthy successors. And now they've found them. Elias finished, along with a new war to fight. Through their bond, they felt the truth of it. The Harbinger Prime was only the vanguard. Somewhere beyond known space, others waited, hungering for consciousness to devour. The blade had chosen them as the first of a new generation of guardians. But as they walked through the colony, civilians emerging from shelters to stare in awe at their armored forms, another truth settled between them. Whatever battles lay ahead, they would face them together, their minds and hearts aligned as perfectly as the stars that had guided the blade to find them. Governor Kim met them at the command center, his face etched with exhaustion and wonder. "I don't know what you did out there, but the sensors show they're gone. All of them." "Not gone," Elias corrected. "Driven back. They'll return eventually. And when they do," Sonia added, "humanity will be ready." That night, as repairs began across the colony and urgent messages were dispatched to Earth about the new threat, Elias and Sonia stood on the observation deck, watching the unfamiliar stars of humanity's frontier. The blade rested between them, its glow matching the distant stellar light. "I can still hear your thoughts," Sonia said softly. "Feel your emotions. Does it bother you?" Elias asked, "Having me always in your mind?" She turned to him, her smile visible even in the darkness. "Strangely, no. It feels right. Like finding a piece of myself I never knew was missing." He felt the truth of her words through their bond, along with the depth of feeling behind them. Whatever the Arctian ritual had done, it had recognized something already forming between them and crystallized it into something unbreakable. "To think," he said, taking her hand, "all this started with my grandmother's mysterious package." "Do you think she knew?" Sonia asked. "About the blade, about us?" Elias remembered the note, "To be opened when the stars speak your name," and felt a sudden certainty. Yes, somehow she knew. Above them, the stars of the frontier glittered like the symbols on the axiom blade, while in their joined minds, ancient knowledge continued to unfold, preparation for the battles to come. But for this moment, they stood together in hard-won peace, two minds as one, guardians of the frontier between humanity and the hungry void beyond.